Test one, two, test one, two. Welcome everyone to the August 13th, 2026 work session of the Williams County Board of Education. We will get started with our agenda. I would ask everyone to, excuse me, to look at the consent agenda and let me know if there's any items that any of you would like to discuss or potentially have removed from the consent agenda.
Weren't we going to have a discussion on the use of digital devices? There was some information from Seth Wilson on that.
We certainly can. That was part of the email I believe you sent today. Is that correct?
I think I read it yesterday.
Yesterday, yeah, that's right.
And there was a few
we
other
certainly
ones
can pull
too.
that out if you'd like to have a discussion on it.
Well, I wanted to, under Zeth's recommendation, to keep a portion of it to go forward, but just what I was really hoping was that it could go forward to the next board so that we could have a discussion on how the implementation is going to look for middle school and high school with the new policy as far as teacher-led. I know Dr. Webb and I discussed that a little bit, so I wanted them to have an opportunity to hear that discussion and have some input on that. But as far as social media and things like that, I don't have a problem if we want to move that forward to first and final.
So what does the rest of the board think? Would we want to pull this completely out of consent agenda and move it to next month's agenda, or parse it out?
I think it's probably wise to, as we talked about in the policy meeting, to put the policy in place and make the adjustments as consistent, so that we're consistent with Dr. Webb's at her recommendation and really the consensus of the policy committee was to make sure that we're consistent and we get that updated so that our administrators, teachers can do that effectively. But I'm open to Dr. Webb. I mean, it certainly doesn't preclude us. We've talked about it like every other month for the last year. Y'all could always bring it up again later.
So just as a point of clarity, are we referencing the use of wireless communications or use of digital devices?
Oh, that's true. That's a good point.
Because I think.
Yeah, this was digital devices.
Yes.
That's the one you mentioned. Is that the one you intended? Okay.
6.3.
So yes, our recommendation is to move forward with the use of wireless communications
Yes.
as recommended. Seth, I don't know if you want to share a recommendation, but my recommendation on use of digital devices, much of what is said in that policy we're moving forward with. If the board feels like that there needs to be further discussion, that's certainly fine from my perspective. From a legal perspective, I'll let Seth weigh in. But as far as the context of what we're putting in place, we'll be moving forward with that regardless. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, thank you. And just to clarify from the email I sent yesterday, the law that was passed has a number of things that directly are taken from that and put into the policy, not just for social media, but for the other digital device parts. Those parts, there was no recommendation to do any revision from the committee meeting. I will note that the law does require each LEA to put a policy in place for at least kindergarten through fifth grade. We had talked about and recommended extending that same kind of acceptable use for digital devices to K through 12. So that's kind of where we are at this point. That includes in the law prohibiting students in K through 5 from accessing social media platforms through internet services provided by the LEA. So, just to make sure that this law passed and went into effect July 1st, and we had something in place that reflected that law and that requirement to have a policy, it would be our recommendation that we would at least do what the law says at this point. However, as we discussed at the committee meeting, our social media section went further than that. It went beyond to K through 12. It didn't just say for internet services provided by the LEA during the instructional day, so it went further in that regard. So our thought and recommendation would be that if we do not, if the board decided not to move forward with the language as it exists in this draft, that at least something would be in place just to reflect what's in the current law that requires a policy, and then that could be further discussion down the road.
Okay, so the question really is, are we comfortable leaving this as is and then making changes at the next, to that policy as written at the next?
Yeah, if there are any. I just would like to know just more about what middle school and high school, what that's going to look teacher-led as far as the, duration of time and just more of a conversation about that.
So just maybe make a note that needs to be discussed further at the next board meeting or next policy meeting about any
Absolutely.
potential future changes, but we'll adopt it as written tonight or Monday night.
Absolutely.
So just to be clear, all of these policies, if I didn't state this before, are first and final readings. We'd be putting them on consent to vote them in block.
So I'm sorry. I don't think I appreciate the changes that were made since the policy, and I do want to reiterate that I think it's wonderful that the district went above and beyond, not stopping at just K through 5, which was required by law, but going K through 12. But having said that, with the social media use paragraph, I guess this is a question for Dr. Webb. It specifically says this prohibition on access includes digital devices, any digital device, not solely district-owned, and our managed devices. So how is the district going to police this? Because high school kids will have their cell phones, they're going to have their cell phones during transition times and at lunch.
That's right. And so the aspects of this policy are actually already in our student handbook that I shared with you guys in the board packet. So we're teaching those expectations at the beginning of the school year, reteaching those at the beginning of second semester, and reinforcing those every single day. So this will be a situation where our administrators and teachers will be monitoring those areas, but it's different than in a classroom environment. So when we see a student is in violation of that, they'll have the same consequences that are outlined in our student handbook. And what we've done is we've made a correlation between those same increased school consequences that we put in the wireless device communication. We've linked those to be the minimal consequences if you're found using your social media during the school day, with the caveat that it could increase depending on what you're doing on social media.
So I would definitely appreciate a follow-up, especially just given all the conversation we had last year about teachers not wanting to police, phone use. Now we're asking them to police whether they're accessing social media, because we are allowing them to have their phones. So I just, we had a lot of conversation as a board about that. I would appreciate a follow-up. I want to hear how it's going.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
So, Josh, I got a question for one of our attorneys, but I mean, how does, like, I get it's a pretty evident if you're policing cell phone use or not, or other wireless communication devices, but in terms of how would we know? Is that like a search type of information? Like, I mean, I'm just anticipating, like, how would we know if somebody was using social media? Are we looking over their shoulder? We see it and we have reasonable suspicion. I don't know if that's the right terminology, but now we're searching the phone, because, like, just tell me how that works legally, not even just practically.
I mean, the way I see it, if it's prohibited during instructional day on school grounds, it would be the same as any contraband, or, I'm going way back, a pornographic magazine or anything else that an individual would have. I mean, you might have to see it. You might have to have suspicion of it.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like, I mean, you're going to see them on their phone.
Right.
But how are you gonna actually confront them or figure out how whether they've got, so whether they're doing social media or whether they're calling their grandmother. Like, I mean, how do you know?
I can speak to the practical implementation of it. I correlate it to all of our school rules. We have expectations that we set forth. We set the expectation, we teach them, we reinforce it. And when we see that a student is violating a rule or a policy, we address it. To me, the choice was, in reviewing this policy, do we ignore social media use and the policy itself and stop at K through 5 where devices are more tightly restricted? Or do we set a clear expectation of what we have for our students, which is while you're at school, yes, high school students, you have access to your phones during the lunch period, but our expectation is clear. Our expectation for you is that you're not on social media during that time, and we set that clear expectation. Are there going to be students who use social media and we don't catch them? Sure. Are there going to be kids who curse and we don't catch them? Sure. Are there going to be kids who bully and we don't catch them? Unfortunately, that happens. But our expectations are clear, our expectations are high, and if we see that a student's in violation of it, then we take their phone. My hope is that with clear expectations and follow through with our expectations as far as consequences are concerned, that a student's not going to want to lose their phone during lunch. And so if they know it's going to be taken, if they're on social media, if they're caught on social media, they won't utilize social media. But when faced with the choice of whether or not we make it abundantly clear social media isn't an option and we don't condone it, or we're silent on it, my opinion is that we're not silent on it. We're clear on what our expectation is. And to Dr. Reeves' point, there are going to be students and there are going to be teachers who feel like, geez, I don't know what he's doing. But if there's a concern, they report it to an administrator, and we can investigate it properly. Are there going to be situations where maybe there's some kind of reasonable suspicion that a crime was being violated and we search the student's phone? Potentially, yes. But to me, this is about setting clear expectations for our students and following through with them. But there will be, I will tell you now, there will be students who do it and we miss it, just like with other behaviors that we lay out in front of them.
I mean, I'm all for it, obviously. I just think the enforcement's going to be hard. It would be a whole lot easier to have them not have their phones than to have them try to police what's on them. Like, I mean, that's just a whole different level. So I mean, I have no problem with it being there. We obviously need to point to something that says you're not supposed to use it. You're supposed to go through the filter anyway, but we all get around that. I think we're trying to address that with the proxies and the VPNs and all that kind of thing. But so I'm totally fine with it. I think y'all should probably bring it up. I would.
Okay, so just one more check with everyone. Is there any desire to remove any item on the consent agenda for Monday night's meeting? Okay. All right, then we will move into the, I'm looking forward to reading that consent agenda, by the way, after we approve it. Superintendent's report. Dr. Webb.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Well, I have some great information to share with you guys. I have 40 minutes slotted and maybe 45 slides, but I'm not going to read them all to you. But the first thing I want to say to you, it's been an incredible start to the school year. Leading up to the school year, even this summer, we had 2,500 teachers all come through the same professional learning over the summer to learn and grow and to prepare for the start of the school year, and it's been phenomenal. So I'm going to take you through a few things. I'm going to take you through the start of what was an incredible, amazing school year. I'm going to talk with you about some of our successes from the past year and some pointers that we've learned from our data of how we can grow in the upcoming year and kind of lay the foundation for where we're headed in the upcoming school year. But if you have not worked in a school, and I know we have several teachers and people who've worked in the school system and on the board, but if you haven't been a part of a school system at the start of the school year, man, you're missing out on the best kind of energy. Every person should work in an organization that has the opportunity to restart, refresh, and have a sense of hope and rejuvenation as we head into the start of an academic year. It's a great energy not only for kids, but it's a great energy and a sense of hope and promise for educators. And so as I made my way through the county over the last month, in professional learning sessions, talking to bus drivers, and seeing things just like this here. I'm impressed with the people that you have in Williamson County School, that we have in Williamson County Schools. Our success is what people talk about, but man, I'm going to tell you, our people that make this district perform in the way that it does is what really sets us apart, and it's good stuff. As you know, thank you guys for being, many of you were at our Innovation Center opening. It was an incredible ribbon cutting, lots of great energy. The room was packed. We're super proud of all the work that went into making this a reality. And it's, as I mentioned at this event, it's a perfect example of what happens when there's alignment and synergy from the governor's office all the way down to the school board and with our school leadership of making things happen for kids. Our governor set up this grant for us. We pulled our money, of course, and you know that. But it also took the county commission agreeing and giving us the property where this the land where this was built and where we're teaching this program now. So a big thank you to everyone involved, to those of you who are here, who supported this. We've been talking about it for a long time, and it was an exciting day. So thank you. I also want to say thank you to the board for the opportunity to lead the district in this transition. It has been a pleasure and an honor to lead in this role, and we've got a great year ahead. So first day, let's talk about the first day. It was fabulous, a lot of excitement. So in addition to all the back to school activities, a lot of our senior classes had senior sunrise. And so we had a lot of great coverage from our news stations. And there's Sarah Lamb next to her son, who is a senior at Summit High School and doing their senior sunrise together. Our enrollment is about 100 shy of our projection. Those numbers will continue to fluctuate. Oftentimes our enrollment will drop a little bit at the start of the school year, and then it'll bounce back around Labor Day. So we'll give you an update when that comes around. Our staffing, we're in a similar pattern as we have been in prior years. Our professional positions, we're staffed at 97.5, and you'll see classified bus drivers and the total number of teachers and employees that we have in place for the start of the school year. But if you know someone who's listening and they're still interested in being a part of Williamson County Schools, hey, send them on. Ashley Slaughter and our HR department will sign them up, and we'll find a job for them to do. We're looking for great people all ways to join our team. I want to remind you that safety isn't just one thing we do. It's really embedded into everything we do. And to emphasize everything, it took 2 slides for me to list for you, not for you to consume in this meeting, but to review after the meeting, just to be reminded of all that goes in to the planning for an academic year to make sure that our kids are safe. It's the most important thing that we do. It's why we're talking about safety before I talk about our academic success. It's really within everything that we do, including academically and our relationships that we have with students. So we'll talk a little bit about our achievement from last school year and what we've kind of learned from our achievement in the past. Getting to the top, I don't care what kind of business that you're in, what kind of industry that you serve in, getting to the top is hard work. But I would challenge you to say that staying at the top is even harder. And then when you're at the top, to continue to have increases every year, so to get there is hard, staying is hard, but to continue to have incremental increases of your achievement and success every year is strategic work. It's intentional work. And you have a lot to be proud of with the teachers, the educators, the leaders in our district, because they continue to do that every year. It's pretty phenomenal. When you get a call from the State Department like we got in the last month to say that you have the highest overall achievement from 3rd grade all the way through high school, highest achievement in proficiency of any school district in the state of Tennessee, that's a great call to get, especially when you look at the state average. And some people may say, wow, 73.9, why are you bragging about that? Well, we're bragging about that because that's a really hard test, and those are hard assessments, multiple assessments. But the state average that we're a part of was 43%. That's phenomenal. It takes a lot of calculated work, and we have wonderful people, wonderful students, wonderful families, and teachers who care passionately about what they do every day, and that's evidenced here. We had an increase in student achievement in 16 of the 23 tested areas. That doesn't count the ones who stayed steady, right? Those are just the ones who increased. And we were number 1 or number 2 in that whole list of assessments that our students took, from 3rd grade all the way through U.S. history. And on the anniversary of our country, our 250th anniversary, to know that your students were number 1 in the state in every social studies tested content area, I mean, it makes you proud. We live in a county, we live here in Williamson County that we stand firmly on our history and our traditions, and to know that our students are learning to that caliber is impressive. Our science scores were just released, so we're just still making our way through the raw scores, but we'll be coming back to you probably in September to talk about the great success we saw in science as well. Our growth scores we've already received. They're embargoed. Wink, wink. I can't wait to talk to you about them in September. Good stuff, good people. Okay, so talking about being at the top and inching up every single year, here's a visual for you. And you're going to see a lot of data in this PowerPoint that I'm going to skim over, but I wanted you to have it. But this is a great visual of the increases that we've done every year. We're at the top, but man, we keep getting a little better every year, and that's all we can ask for from our students. When we talk about college and career readiness, I want to give you a snapshot of data from that as well. Combined, if you look at our dual enrollment, so as a reminder, dual enrollment is when we teach a course in our high schools and the students are getting high school credit at the same time that they're getting college credit. So it's our teachers, they're teaching the College Board content, but they're also, they're teaching the college content, but they're also getting college credit. That's dual enrollment. And College Board is when our teachers teach AP courses that are approved by the College Board. So look at those numbers. If you add up those hours that our students earn in this past year, that's approximately 40,000 hours of college credit that our students received from the combined dual enrollment and AP courses that they took. And I listed for you there some of those college courses, dual enrollment courses that our students are taking, so you can get an idea of the vast array of interest and passions that our students have. Industry certifications, those are certifications that our students take through our career and technical education program. This is going to be a focus as we open up the Innovation Center and we find new opportunities for our students in the trades. But these are industry certifications that our students obtained in this past year, and you'll see that we have some goals to improve upon that. The following slides just have some AP data I just want you to have access to. I want you to see the different courses that we teach, and to see that our enrollment remains steady in our AP courses, even though our dual enrollment is also increasing, and our scores continue to increase. So I wanted you to see the evidence of those great pieces. What you're going to find on these slides when you start to look at them after the meeting, you'll see that you have the WCS average score, and then we listed for you the average score of the nation, because College Board, of the nation. So you can compare how our students do compared to the whole nation there. Okay? When we start planning, so that's where we've been, and so as we start planning for the upcoming school year, I just want to share with you kind of how we map out what our focus points are going to be and actually what those are. We start every summer with a mission and vision of our district, and what's most important about our mission in Williamson County Schools is that we remind our teachers, you don't just teach math, science, social studies, you teach children. And that's what our mission is about. It's about every student, and it's about ensuring that we're teaching every aspect, intellectually, physically, emotionally. That's who we are. And that our goal is to challenge every single student and be supportive so they can excel in all sorts of things, academics, arts, and athletics. So we remind them of that as we kick off the year. We're also reminded that we're in year 4 of a 5-year strategic plan, and we have 3 strategic commitments that our community has committed to. So we remind them that we're preparing students not only to do well in our course content, but we want them to be successful when they graduate and walk across the stage. We want to develop our staff members and our team quality, and we want the environment to continue to get better every single year. That leads us to what we present to the state, almost like a school improvement plan for the entire district. So we have 5 goals that we'll focus on going into the upcoming school year, and I wanted you to see those. because you'll see the echo of course, academic success, but college and career readiness. And then you're going to see that aspect of reaching all learners that I'm going to talk more about in the next couple of minutes. So what drives those focus points? Vision, mission, that's what we're all about. We teach children, not necessarily content. And then we start looking at what are the other data points that we're seeing from the past school year that we need to improve upon. We look, of course, at our common assessments that the teachers gave. We look at the national and state assessments that I just referenced, college and career readiness. We look at our bullying and behavior data. We look at all of these pieces. And of course, in this academic year, we're looking at our technology guidance implementation to remind ourselves of what that committee has recommended to us in regards to the balance of technology. We also have a professional learning community guiding coalition, which is a committee of teachers, instructional coaches, principals, assistant principals, central office folks, who collaborate together and look at data from how our teams are performing and give feedback on what kind of professional development and support do we need to give teaching teams so that we're meeting their needs. I'm giving you here a few snapshots of data so you can see these are the types of things that kind of fuel what our plans are for the upcoming year. In red, you have our ELA from last year, and the darkest is, or it's 2 years ago, and the darkest is this past year. And the same was with math in blue. The lightest is 2025, the darkest is 26. And we look at the comparison of how all of our students do in that category compared to student groups. And even though we're excited that the second of those bars is higher in most instances than the first, we're still not satisfied with the gaps between each of those student groups and the all category. So it's something that we continue to work on. We want every group to continue to get better, but we want to close those gaps quicker. We also look at our bullying and harassment data. I shared this with you on Monday. And it's also in your board packet. We'll continue to talk about this data. This is the data from the last 4 school years. This is what the categories of information that we report to the state. You'll see that in this past year, as an example, our bullying reports, which we've really emphasized, those have gone up from the past year. So we have more students reporting issues that need to be investigated and addressed. However, when you go down the chart, you'll see we actually had fewer instances that after investigation actually fell into the bullying and harassment claim. We're inching our way to improvement, but it's not the amount of improvement that we want to see. We want to see that greatly decrease. So on the chart that you have in your packet, this is the district-wide viewpoint of it, but you'll also see in your board packet elementary, middle, and high separated, so you can see those categories that we report to the state and which categories we're making improvements in and which that we aren't, because this fuels what our plan is for the upcoming year. So speaking of those focus
Dr.
points.
Webb, can
Yes.
I interrupt you on that?
Yes.
One thing that's come up in the past on the bullying question is, I know I've asked it and maybe others have too, is the question of how many of these reports are unique reports in the sense of unique students versus repeat behaviors by the same student. Do we know that? Do we have that data? Is that something worth looking into?
We do. We do have that data, and that is something that we look at in the summer, particularly by individual schools, as we're developing those individual school plans to address what's taking place in those buildings. So we have it district-wide, and then we have it school-based as well. So I can share that as requested. So as we think about all those things I just described to you, that's when we kind of get into these 3 buckets of focus points, keeping the vision, the mission, our data, what we've learned from our data, and what do we want to really target and improve on in this academic year. The first thing that we're focusing on and have wrapped professional development around already heading into this year, and that will continue throughout the year, first is that teachers power progress. Purposefully talking about the power of teaching. There is nothing more powerful than a phenomenal teacher and phenomenal teaching in front of a classroom. Nothing replaces that, including technology. So we're emphasizing that as we go into this upcoming school year, and we look at our purposeful technology integration. Speaking of purposeful technology integration, an hour ago, CBS News highlighted and was in the process of highlighting, I'm assuming that it aired, we've been here together, but they're highlighting on a national news story the work that our Screen Time Committee has done and recommended over the last 18 months. So not only is this powerful work that impacts our students. It's model work that others across the country are interested in learning more about, which I think is complementary to our TLA team, to Andy, to Melissa and Tanya, who are on that committee and leaned into that work, our teachers and parents who are part of that. Also, through Teachers Power of Progress, we're really emphasizing the work of our professional learning communities, where teachers work in teams, looking at the data from all of the students that we teach in that grade band, who's doing really well with certain standards, and who could use some strategies from somebody else on that team to reach the students. So we're talking about professional learning communities. We're also talking about John Hattie's work. And so if you've been around education, you know John Hattie is a researcher who talks about the different types of implications and ways to learn from how students learn from us. What do teachers do that impacts students the greatest? And so if I asked you around this room here, what do you think? We probably all have some similar answers about relationships and being quality teachers. That's what has the best impact on our students. John Hattie's research emphasizes that the number one thing that impacts students' learning and achievement is collective teacher efficacy. What that means is that if every teacher who teaches on a teaching team, or if I believe truly that every student in my class can learn and is capable of achieving, the impact of that belief is greater than anything else that I can do as a teacher. That's more powerful than my content knowledge. That's more powerful than the curriculum that I'm teaching from. The power of me truly believing that the kids in my class can learn, that's power. So teachers power progress by their belief, by their content knowledge, by utilizing their research-based strategies, and there's power in what's taking place in our classrooms, and we're emphasizing that and the culture that we're creating and continue to build. Every learner, every day is about the hardest thing that we do as teachers. Writing a lesson plan that reaches every single student that is in my classroom and assures that it gives me the best chance for each of you to learn the standards that I'm teaching every day, that's hard work, because every learner comes in with all sorts of learning differences. Whether I have an IEP, a 504, or I have nothing but my gym shoes when I come running in, how I learn and what I need to be successful is unique to me. So we talk a lot about that, and that's what 2,500 of our teachers went to professional learning this summer to learn about. What are those research-based best strategies that we can utilize to reach all learners in our classrooms? So that's a focus for us in this upcoming year. I could talk about that a long time, but I'm watching the clock. I'm going to keep going. Relationships fuel learning and safety is our last bucket, and that's where it comes into that bullying data and our culture of how kids treat each other. So we are talking a lot this year not only about the relationships between adults and students, adults also in our families, and making sure that we're meeting them where they are and our relationships are strong. We're providing what our families need to be successful, whether that's through our social work or through our school counseling teams of making sure the families have what they need to be successful. But also we're talking about how students treat each other. I mean, that's a life skill. Every interaction matters, and we're emphasizing that as we teach students the whole child going into this academic year, and we're talking about the best strategies of how to do that. So relationships, it fuels learning and safety, and if you look back later about those different tactics that are on our safety and security slides, you're going to see a lot about relationships and our interactions with each other that fuel safety. So I've given you some more slides here of just more information. If you want to read on that later on, you'll have it in your packet. And I also put in there in response to the bullying data, what our bullying task force recommendations were. And so these are pieces that we're implementing in this upcoming school year. And there are very specific things that we're doing to make sure that we're building that positive culture for our students. And so I've listed those for you here. The big pieces that I want to point out to you before I click the next slide is the community building time is one. We started that about a year ago. All 52 schools have time built into the week where the focus is on building community, student to student, face to face. And that human interaction is important. So that's an emphasis. We're providing a lot of support to schools on what kinds of activities they do during that community building time. We're also working on a research-based review of bullying prevention. There are about 15 best practices when it comes to preventing bullying and intimidation and harassment in a school environment. We're working our way through those 15 best practices, and we're looking at each individual school plan and our district plan to make sure we're doing everything that we can on the front end to teach students that every interaction matters. That includes the school counseling plan. At the beginning of every year, our school counselors and our school administrators team together to create a plan of what kind of data is there outside of academia that we need to address through our school counseling standards. And so they're looking at their bullying data, and they're creating those very specific culture building strategies in this upcoming school year as well. For our secondary students, our middle and high, our STARS counselors are leading student-led groups with an emphasis in this academic year of how we can, as student leaders, encourage and promote how kids treat each other through the halls. Okay, I'll close with this. You have in your packet, every August, we've put on our annual agenda for us administratively to make sure that you have the student handbooks. We have an elementary, middle, and high. You'll see a lot of what we've been talking about in policy echoed there. Skipping class, those consistency pieces, the social media expectations are in the student handbook, and we teach those. So you'll be able to see all those listed there. I also have a reminder for you guys as we start the social studies textbook adoption. You have the opportunity to nominate a parent to serve on that committee. So if you would, think about that over the next week or two and let Ms. Glenn know if you have a recommendation you'd like to make for that committee. That work actually will begin pretty quick. So we're asking you to go ahead and consider it now instead of waiting until September's board session. We can add someone late if we need to, but we'd prefer to go ahead and get that textbook adoption committee rocking and rolling.
All right, I have a question about that.
Yes.
Are those meetings going to be once a month, afternoons, mornings, like just so we can ask people who have availability?
Good question.
Most of they've got, I think we have both. I think it's a
Okay.
combination of during the day, and then there's a couple of evening meetings, so there's a little bit of variability.
Okay.
It'll require them to have some flexibility with both
Okay.
during the day. Now, there's not many.
Okay.
I think we had 5 or 6 last year.
Okay.
So it'll be in that time range, but we can get you the specifics ahead of time so you have that.
That would be great.
introduce it.
I think as much as you have, that way when we ask people, we're
Yeah.
asking people who know they can participate.
Yeah.
That would be great.
Yep, we'll get that for you.
Thank
Great
you.
recommendation. Thank you. Any other questions? Thank you, Mr. Chair.
All right, thank you, Dr. Webb. And I know everyone agrees with me when I say thank you for the way you've stepped in the first 30 days or so and taken the reins, and school's gotten off to a great start, so thanks for your leadership. Okay, let's move to our operations report. Mr. King?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. It's a busy summer for the operations departments, but I'm just going to highlight a couple of the big projects that we did this summer. If you remember, one of the things you approved last year was the renovation of Grassland Middle School. It was a 3-summer project. This year was phase 1 that's been complete. I have a couple of pictures, as you can see, where the gym floor has been redone and painted. That's a new conference room. The new office area that's more secure now with the secure entrance. And then redid the bathrooms, flooring, and the toilets and so. And I'll say this: the pictures don't do it justice, and you're going to see this in next year's budget where we ask for more renovations for our older schools, and these are important. And so, if you have the chance to call me and let's set up a tour where you can see it, because seeing it in person is different than pictures, and it makes a difference. First of all, we need to take care of our schools, the older schools, but the morale. It was so neat to see teachers coming in and seeing the work, and it was like they were walking into a new school. It's really been good. Eric Gardner, who's over our facilities, managed this project, and it was really good. We may finish it in 2. We don't know. They got a little ahead this year, so we'll see how next summer goes. Another big project we have this year is, remember we asked for lighting for all our athletic fields that we did not get approved. But we really knew that we needed to take care of this. This is something we've known we needed to take care of for a while. We found some money where we could at least do football. And our football fields this year, next year we're going to ask for baseball and softball. Adam Christopher headed up that project, and he came to me and he said, look, this is a big deal. I want to get these done before the first game this year. And I was like, okay, Adam, I'm not sure. Let's have a plan B just in case, because I don't want to have week 1 and we have like schools with no lights. But they are ahead of schedule there too. Adam's done a great job managing that. I think we're down to like 3 schools now that aren't complete, that'll be complete before the first home game. Our field turf, that was approved last year. Brentwood High, Nolensville, that was done this summer. And also in our 5-year capital, we're in the 3rd and final phase of our fob project. So all our schools will have internal fobs, and the new intercom alert system will also be in all our schools before the start of school next year. So that's my report, and be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions for Mr. King? Thanks for all the great work, you and your team. Okay, board chair report, sorry. One item to mention, and that is, you'll recall that back in June, we approved the contract for Dr. Webb, and because of the requirements of the law, it could only go through October 5th. It could only extend for 60 days after the election. So this is really just a preview for the board in September that the board will have to take up, because that'll be the last meeting before the contract expires. The board will need to take up an extension of that contract. So just flagging that for the members of the board who will remain and the new board members who are listening. That's going to be an item you'll have to address in September at the board meeting. Okay, let's move on to new business. Ms. Farmer, you've got 3, well, I guess if you count item B, you've got 4 items, so I'll just turn it over to you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The first item we have tonight is related to carryover reserves. What this is if a donation or funds was given for something specific in a year and those funds aren't spent, the balances carry over to the next year. And so we had several items that fell into that category, the total of which is $81,614.45. And so this is placing those items right back into the 26-27 budget. It includes MTSU money, TCAP money, money for the Wilco events, some music funds, as well as the Oscar Brooks Memorial donations that were given for it. The next item we have is related to transition grant carryover. This is a state grant, but the timing on it runs from October to September. So our year end is June 30th. Because we still have 3 more months of those funds, we have to bring it back into this year's budget. So this was been voted on last year. Again, this is carryover from last year, and that total is $41,280. The last of the amendments is related to the state special education preschool grant, and we were allocated this year $665,232, and this would be placing those funds into our budget.
Ms. Farmer, how much of that education preschool program is funded by the state or other parties versus what we have to cover ourselves?
I don't have the numbers, but I will get those for you.
Okay.
Same question. Okay. Yep. I'll have that for you and I'll send it out to you.
Any other questions on the budget amendments? Okay. You can
The
take the next
next item is an annual agenda item that's required by the state manual for our school activity funds, and it's a listing of any open POs as of, open purchase orders as of June 30th, with the reason why those purchase orders are still open. So you'll see a list, it's by school, and it's all of those items, but you do have to vote to acknowledge that that was what was left open at the school level. And if you have no questions on the guide, if I can take just a sec, I want to do one little plug. On the agenda in the section 7, every month there's a year-to-date financial report and an end-of-month purchasing report. And so at any time you want to know where we are related to the budget, that information is in your packet. But my plug is it's also on the website. And so if you go under our resources to anyone listening under budget and finance, the purchasing report, all of that information is there for years. You can go back and look. But then also there's a current running total in open finance. You would have to click on the link, but it's on the page that will show all of the different budgets and where we are throughout the year. And so please know that that resource is there and look at it. It has vendor information and it has tons of different information that we'd love for you to see. That's it. Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
Rachel, do you have to have any adjustments? Usually you budget salaries in a single line item and then break it out. Will you do that next time?
We'll do it, and we normally wait till October just so that everything falls into place. So the very first payroll for our 10-month teachers is not until August 31st. So that'll be the first time that we truly see the salaries.
Gotcha.
And that gives us just a little bit of time to make sure that everything is where it needs to be.
That's fine, thanks.
Yep.
All right, we will move on to item C, which is board policies for first reading. And we've got, let's see, I guess just one. So Seth?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This was discussed at the committee meeting as well. It's Public Chapter 1112. This is related to applied behavior analysis, private pay providers accessing the schools. The statutes went into effect in May, Department of Education, and I know I mentioned this last time as well, so I'm sorry for reiterating, but was to issue guidance that came out in July 10th, and we've been moving forward with what we can on our end, but there is a requirement under the law also for each LEA to have its own policy on this. I know this was handed out last time. I had done a version of this draft because I know it's long and I know it's dense, but that's because the law is long, and then those guidelines are as well, where I noted each and every time that where every line had come from. I know that was passed out last time. It's pretty much the entire thing outside of two different sections. One says they'll follow the policies of the board. Two, that there'll be a release of information signed, that it says something about confidentiality in the guidelines. We just have our form, our release of information. And then secondly, there's a requirement that each LEA puts into effect an appeal process, and that, but it doesn't say what that is. So that's reflected at the very end, where we're proposing that the appeals process is that it goes to the superintendent or designee reviews the appeal of the parent legal guardian along with information provided and makes a final determination within 10 school days. Outside of that, everything's directly quoted from, again, either directly from the actual statutes or those guidelines that DOE was required to put in place. I'm also going to throw out that Maria Grego is here in the back. Sorry if you weren't prepared for that, but she's been working really hard with her staff and her team, putting what we can in place. But obviously at this point, there needs to be a policy before we can really move forward with our own operating guidelines, because we have to work off what y'all would approve. So we'll take any questions, probably mostly to be answered by Maria, but happy to take any questions on that.
This is probably a question for Mr. Galbraith. Is there, thinking back to the policy meeting, is there a particular reason we would not just approve this on first and final, since it's largely coming straight out of the statute?
It was just a lot of material, and there wasn't terrible urgency to do it, to go outside of our normal process. So that was really the only reason.
Fair enough.
Can I add to that, Chair? The only other piece that I would add is that as we start the school year and implement our practice that we have outlined, it gives us the opportunity, if we push this to September, to make any kind of additional tweaks from the start of the school year, because we do have a handful of families who've already requested, and so we'll start our practice with them. So there is a benefit. There may be additional pieces that we bring back to policy.
Okay, sounds good.
Hope,
Ann?
I'd just like to say that I agree with Jay. You know, we need to go forward with this and keep it going. This is a open-ended law or change that's, to me, I don't know how you're going to figure it out, but we will. We've got to do it. A lot of it's being done now. But it is just open-ended all the way through. We've got to have an appeal process. This wasn't supposed to cost us any money. It's supposed to be funded by the parents, but we're going to have to put staff on all this. We're going to have staff to help the special needs group. So don't kid yourself. We're going to pay for this one way or the other. And honestly, the way things go in education, we'll probably be paying for the whole thing before it's over. Thank you.
All right. Any other
Josh?
comments on that?
if I may, it's not on this. I just realized, Dr. Webb, on the military relocation policy, I thought you found Seth, you found the policy that also correlated to that. Did you edit that, and is that included, or do we?
Yes, sir. It says.
Did
I don't
you
know
just
the exact
reference it
wording,
in
but
there?
Yeah,
So,
yeah. It says in accordance with, and then it referenced that policy.
so we didn't have to actually edit that other policy.
No.
Okay. No, that's fine. I just want to make sure. So, thanks.
Okay, anything else on that policy? Tracy?
Dr. Webb, I'm sorry. What did you say about this policy? You said that we don't need to move forward with it at this moment, or would you like more time to see what the law says?
Thank you for the clarity. We recommend moving forward and pushing this to September for a second read. All the action steps that are within the policy, we're moving forward with tentatively, with the understanding with our families that the board could make a decision in September with additional criteria for us to complete. But my thought is that if we give this another month and not do it first and final, push it to September for further consideration through the policy and bring it back to the board in September, it gives us the opportunity to make any additional tweaks that may be needed as we start off this school year and start our implementation with the families who've already requested. There could be little nuances that need to be in policy that we haven't discovered because we haven't done it yet.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so we will vote Monday night on first reading, and that will go back to policy for second reading. All right, next item is D, approval of the change to early release day from November 11th, 2026 to November 18th. Dr. Webb?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. When the calendar committee made recommendations to you for early release for elementary, we didn't have the thought to think about transportation conflicts with early release and the fact that many of our high school students and middle school students will travel via bus to Veterans Day parades and assemblies and that sort of thing. And so we will have a transportation conflict that we didn't contemplate. So Dr. Orier has put a request in for you to consider moving the early release day from Veterans Day and moving it to the following week, and we recommend your approval.
Okay. Any questions on that? All right, item E is approval of additional course on the 2026 course list. Dr. Webb?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. With the opening of the Innovation Center and an evaluation of our current career and technical education offerings, we do have the recommendation to offer several courses at the honors level as we further develop those courses since we brought you the course list for approval in February. These are all state-approved courses. However, if we do ask for board approval before we teach them, these are the state-approved courses that we've added that will have an honors component. So we're asking you to approve these at the honors level. And we will be teaching these this fall. So please approve.
Any questions?
Dr. Webb, are there any additional resources that need, from a curriculum standpoint, that need, or do we have everything that we need?
Thank you. We have everything that we need from our current adoption. Thank you.
Okay, item F is approval of sick bank trustees, which is an annual agenda item. Dr. Webb?
Yes, this is an annual agenda item, and this work begins immediately. And so with Mr. Drayson Beasley rotating off the board, we would ask that you approve Dr. Driggers to replace him on the sick bank committee. And we'll be in communication with you, Dr. Driggers, as we prepare that work. And we've enjoyed your leadership in that. Thank you, sir.
Well, thank you. It's very important, and I really appreciate Ms. Hall. She's definitely missed, but her team did a great job. And it's a big work that nobody sees.
That's exactly right.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Dr. Driggers, for taking that on. Okay, approval of the annual agenda, which is obviously an annual agenda item. Dr. Webb?
Not much to say there. We have an annual agenda for you to review and approve.
So just because it is significant and it does cover items all the way through next June, I just want to make sure everybody has reviewed that. It's in the packet, but make sure everyone's seen that and all the different items that are to be considered each month as laid out. Dr. Johnson, do you have a question?
So I wanted to bring up in March about the textbook adoption, especially since we have a big adoption this year. If you recall, I think back in the January meeting, I talked about how I met with the state textbook adoption committee chair, and she shared that like her school board actually doesn't vote until June, so that the teachers have more time to actually review the textbooks. And so that was something we talked about, so I just wanted to bring it up to people to see if that's something we want to talk about moving to possibly the May or June meeting instead of, because if you look at the timeline, I mean, our teachers, the state doesn't give us the recommendations till right before Thanksgiving. They can't meet in December really to look at them. So you're looking at February or January, but you still have sometimes snow days. So you got February, and then we get the recommendations. So just want to put that out there for people to discuss and see if that's something we want to do. Because, it was, I forget her name now. You all might remember. I think she's the superintendent at Bradley County. But anyway, she talked about how, they start the school year, the teachers are teaching the standards, and then when the textbooks come in, they work to make the switch to the new textbook. So put that out there. We can discuss it, see if you want to move it, so that our teachers have more time and community have more time to review those materials, since it will be a big adoption year.
Dr. Webb, do you want to react to that?
I would. Thank you for bringing that up, Dr. Pageant. So I'll kick it to our TLA team to give some feedback. But we did, the reason why we need those names for the committee is we are backing up the work. But to your point, when we get the materials from the state is when we get the materials from the state. So that we don't have control over. But we did make the recommendation in our timeline to start sooner than we've started in prior years to lay the foundation for the work. And I'll let our TLA team respond to the timeline change.
Yeah, thank you for the question. We'll certainly take that back from a team perspective and discuss it. Our challenge has always been trying to get first in line and ordering the materials. And so as it stands right now with the March approval and the time that the work that has to occur in March to solidify exactly what's included in the purchase after the adoption and then getting in line to get the materials purchased. We're still cutting it close to have materials ready for the first day. But we can take it back and review it as a team and make sure we're given as much time as we possibly can, but yet still get the materials to the students prior to the start of school. I will say that we're committed again this year, and I think that we can even streamline it and do it even better to get that list of potentially approved text and then the final approved list to our textbook adoption committee sooner, as Dr. Webb mentioned. And then I just have to give props to Jen Sauer, who does a fantastic job in leading the textbook adoption process, and our entire TLA team. They've committed to providing what I think right now at last count is 99 hours of time for the community and staff and anyone, board members, to review those materials. So day and night for days on end, for a total of 99 hours between the time that we get that list and we have to make a final recommendation to you all. So to specifically answer the question, let us take one more look at it just to see. I'm pretty sure I'm going to get the same answer from the team, is that challenge of getting those materials ordered and in the hands of students in time. But we'll take back and review it one more time.
Did I understand correctly, Dr. Johnson, that in that example you used, that they're starting the school year without the textbooks in that particular case?
Correct, because the standards drive the curriculum, not the textbook. So they just use the textbooks that they have, and then as they get the materials in, they work to switch over. The way she did it is they actually, because, the state releases the standards 2 years before the adoption. So the social studies standards have been released for a year. So her teachers have already been teaching the new standards. She gives them that first year to teach the new standards, to learn the new standards. Then this year they're teaching the new standards. And then when they get the list at Thanksgiving, which is usually when the state gets it to us, her teachers already know the standards, so then they review the books. Her board votes in June, and then, like I said, the third year is the gradual change from the old textbook to the new textbook.
Okay. Any other questions on that item?
Not that particular, but the annual agenda. This year, I appreciate it being there, but I don't know that we're going to need a superintendent contract review and extension line item, but I don't know that it hurts to leave it there because it'll have to be there every other year. So just, it's up to us. What'd you say, leave it?
We can put an asterisk by that as well if needed.
Okay, any other discussion of the annual agenda? All right, and then the final item, next to last item under new business is approval of superintendent and district goals for 2026-27. So Dr. Webb, do you want to walk us through the memo that you provided?
Yes. So Mr. Golden submitted to you all in June 5 superintendent goals that he was recommending for your consideration. My thought in this transition was to keep those same goals. From my viewpoint, those are not only the superintendent's goals, but those are district goals. Those are things that we need to be working on, and those are things that we're currently actively working on based on all those things that I shared with you earlier, and some of those came from feedback points from you all. So I'm comfortable moving forward with the same goals. I did tweak how they're worded to make them more clearly measurable, and I do think that he submitted them to you in draft form anyway, but I just reconfigured the layout of the questions and restructured them so that they would be clearly measurable with distinct deadlines. I'm happy to discuss any of them individually if you'd like. But the point I want to make to you is that these aren't the only things that we're working on. We have the strategic plan. We're responding to the data live, and then as that data comes to us, these are 5 points that we've picked to put on this piece of paper, but there are ample goals that we're working on.
With that being said, would you want to revise and put some of the strategic plan goals in place of some of these?
Great question. Thank you for asking that. What I would like to do is update you guys as the school year goes on. I don't want to overwhelm you because there are many action steps that we have taken and continue to take in meeting the strategic plan goals. So what I'd like to do is, I'm fine moving forward with these 5 as the ones that are concrete and that I'm personally measured upon. I'm comfortable with that. But in addition to that, I'd like to bring you in slow strategic chunks for you to digest the strategic plan pieces that we've been working on and where we are in progress of those. And I'm happy to do those in regular communications to you or formally here in the board work sessions.
I appreciate the edits that you made to these and the additional clarity and specificity. I think that makes them, it's a better layout, and it actually is easier to understand, I think. So I appreciate that work. And Dr. Webb and I talked about this, about whether to, with the change in leadership, whether to change the goals or not. And I was supportive of keeping the goals as they were. I think, to her point, I think their district goals are not based on the person. So I, for one, agree with that. Any other comments or questions about the goals?
I just want to say thank you to those of you who gave feedback on how the goals should be written, and I took those feedback points to heart. So thank you for your thoughts.
Okay, and then the final item under new business is discussion and approval of the new board attorney. You'll recall from an email I sent this morning that I wanted us to come prepared to talk about the process that we're involved in of interviewing the 2 candidates who have applied for board attorney position. And this has to be a public, by law, has to be a public discussion and a public vote. So I would like for us to open up the floor and start to talk about the 2 interviews that took place, one of which was 4:30 this afternoon. Love to get thoughts, feedback on the candidates. Again, depending on how this conversation goes, I'll be making a recommendation that we vote Monday night to hire one of these individuals who would start September 1st. So I'll open it up for comments or feedback.
I guess I will. I thought they were both very strong candidates, but to me, since we are going to be conducting a superintendent search, I think that Mr. Jackson clearly had the edge there just based on how many superintendent searches he's been a part of. So that was a key differentiator, I guess, for me.
Yes, I really like both candidates very much, but I did feel that Mr. Jackson had a vast more experience, and again, especially the experience for superintendent searches and the recommendations he said for how to do that. I thought that was very strong. Yeah, so overall, that would be my recommendation as well.
Yeah, I feel the same way. I think he just explained himself very well, that he's been around, and he is involved now in so many other school districts, but it's still the state of Tennessee under, the Tennessee Department of Education. So, I mean, I feel, Rebecca did a good job on her interview, but I just feel like he could sit down and step right in without a hitch and do a fine job.
I agree. One thing that he mentioned was that, and I don't know how practically this would work, but it's along the lines of the superintendent search. But I mean, he's done it through TSBA, through a consultant, and actually just a self-guided process, which I don't even know how that would work in terms of, I mean, I know how it would work in terms of process, but in terms of sourcing candidates, that would be the issue. But I mean, to be able to customize our own and utilize our HR department or somebody to help lead that, it seemed really interesting. But I think having somebody who's done a number of those is really important on this, especially this year.
Yeah, I would just agree with all that, everything everybody said. He seemed very knowledgeable. I love that he had the experience in the superintendent searches, it seems. I also really like that it seems he has a good working relationship with Ben Torres and the TSBA, which is awesome. His experience with working with a good amount of school boards through the years is encouraging. So he's kind of seen a lot of it, I'm sure, and has good knowledge on all those different pieces. So I like him a lot.
Let me just ask if anyone has a different thought other than Mr. Jackson. Okay, well, hearing none, I will plan to make a yeah.
So no thoughts on that, on the attorney selection process. Obviously, that won't impact me, but I will say just the discussion with TSBA being involved in the superintendent search. I would encourage everyone to really get some detail from TSBA and how they want to handle that. TSBA was involved years ago in one of our superintendent searches, and directly because of that, Williamson County became the only school district not a member of TSBA for years, because it was handled very poorly. In their defense, it was a different head of TSBA, but there were some issues there, and I'll just leave it at that. So this is not saying don't use it, but I would encourage those of you who are remaining on the board to really get some details from TSBA about their process and how they're handling it and everything else, because there is some history there with this district directly where it kind of blew up, and there were some hard feelings for many, many years when we were, again, the only district in the state of Tennessee that said we're not going to be a member of TSBA anymore.
All right, any other feedback on this process? All right, I will plan on making a recommendation then on Monday night that we approve negotiating with Mr. Jackson to retain him as our attorney for the school board. All right. That brings us to the end of our agenda. Any other business for the good of the order? All right, we are adjourned. Thank you.